All right. Hello and welcome. I'm here again with Nazly Nejadamin joining to chat about a new topic that we just revised. We were going to initially talk about navigating change, and we had this booked a couple weeks ago, but we've been going through a lot of change since then. And so we just had a conversation before we are recording this here about what we want to talk about, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We're going through our own experiences right now. And it was really interesting to grab hold of what we're feeling right now to talk about a specific topic that is relevant to our experience right now, because I feel that, well, we both agreed that we're probably going to get the most out of talking about what is sort of top of mind or the things that we are going through right now, in hopes that it is going to help you, listener, watcher, viewer, through what you might be going through at this time as well, or even no matter when you find this video or podcast, then it may serve you during the time during what you are experiencing. So Nazly, again, thank you so much for being here. I loved our last session. I will leave a link to that. We talked about, what was the last discussion that we talked about actually?
Balance, I think it
Balance.
was. Yes.
Yes, that was. It was
Yes.
beautiful. And the balance of, yeah, the dualities, polarizations. Yeah, so I'll leave a link to that. Check that one out. It was a beautiful conversation. So here we're going to be talking about, I did label it the cause and effect, talking about this transition from being, and you and I, Nazly, we both related to this exact same situation, that I feel that we're going through something very similar, where in the past we've been more at the effect of life. We've been at the effect, we've attracted situations to us, we've put ourselves in situations unconsciously. So from an unconscious place, acting, behaving, attracting, creating from our unconscious self, from our shadow self, from those deep wounds, from those patterns. And in this process now of transition, going, I'm breaking these patterns, I am creating the change. And what happens during that phase of turning our life around, literally, to be the cause rather than the effect, being the creator of our reality, being conscious and aware of what we want to create, who we want to be, the kind of relationships. And that comes with a whole new learning curve that you and I are going through right now, and possibly people who are also watching and listening too, I imagine. So this is a very, very important conversation because of, we're in the thick of it. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there as well. And even if you're going through this and you can't make sense of what's going on, but you're going through a manifestation journey, you're going through creation, you're going through change, you're going through shadow work, you're going through healing, transformation, all those things. If you are going through these really uncomfortable moments, it's normal. It's something that we need to go through in order to shift, and in order to really stay true to who we are, what's important for us, and to align us with our true self and what we want to create. And it's constantly changing, right? Like we're
That's right.
constantly learning through that process. You probably have a good idea of who you are and what's important for you and what you value, but then there are all these subtleties and these new things that come in that get thrown at us. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I don't like that, or that actually makes sense for me, and constantly readjusting to this new form. So what are you going through there, Naz? What are you
Oh
experiencing?
God. It's as you were saying that, I'm like, it's like leveling up. Every time you go through something, you see it from a different perspective. On my healing journey, I've always been like, oh yeah, like I'm good. I'm on the right path. And then boom, something big will happen in my life. And I have gone spiraling into the abyss. And I found that when those bad things happen, oftentimes, if you've got the trauma, right, you're focusing on the bad stuff, and then you're attracting more bad stuff. And a lot of times we get, even as healers, I've seen us do it too, right? Like we work on ourselves constantly. It's not like, oh, you are awakened and then, magically the next day everything is beautiful. It's actually, I find it's the hardest work. And I find a lot of people avoid the journey because it's so difficult. It's an unconscious avoidance, because it's painful to face our shadow. But I've realized that to be the effect of it all is you have to live in it, um, deal with it, face it, but not hold on to it. I found that when I go down the hole, it's when I start feeling sorry for myself. It's like, oh, that happened to me. Oh, boo hoo. Like in 1 year, I lost my brother to cancer. I moved to a completely different city where I had no family. And I have an 8 year old. And then I separated from my partner. So in a very short amount of time, I had to face quite a bit. And I really I got low. It got really, really low because every hit was like me forgetting who I truly was before all the trauma, before all those events that happened, all that self journeying that I had done. I wasn't putting it into practice in those moments because I was getting trapped in all the uncomfortable things and creating more uncomfort for myself, not realizing, hey, it's me. It's not like life teaching me a lesson. That's how I used to see it, was like, oh, I need to go through this because there's some lesson that I've got to learn. Not realizing it's the lesson I'm teaching myself by repeating the same thoughts about what I'm facing. But now it's more like I've empowered myself to take charge, set the boundaries, right? And really call back my energy and no longer allow those negative moments to make me forget about my power and who I am and what I've faced. That has been the I guess the last couple of weeks for me, that's been my learning journey, really.
Yeah. And listening to that, we can't be hard on ourselves. I've been going through the same thing, by the way. It's been really tough the last couple weeks. And I was thinking, oh yeah, it's another death and rebirth phase, another big transformation. Here we go, feeling the cycle kicking in,
Hmm.
wallowing in it, succumbing to the darkness aspect.
Hmm.
And then it eventually subsides, and having that level of consciousness and awareness within, and then the strength and the ability to let it go, and completely go, no, this is not my reality. It's not, I see this pattern. I know what I'm experiencing. I know it not to be real. Um, and then moving towards, just experiencing it, and shadow work too. The integration part is really important. It's feeling it
That's right.
and not avoiding it, not numbing it, not suppressing it. Um, kind of like feeling it, like feeling
Hmm.
it, acknowledging it, understanding it. It creates more conscious level within ourselves, right?
Yes.
And so what happens when you go through, it sounds like I was going to say a tower moment, when you go through what you just mentioned, what you
Yes.
had experienced in your
Yes.
life, like a massive shakeup. And we have to go through that in order for change to happen. We also have to feel this in order for change to happen. It's all part of the transformational journey. That's all the really important aspect about shadow that, I drill in all the time now, because it is part of the process, and it's part of you returning to yourself. And you have to go through those dark moments and hit the rock bottom and do things that may feel destructive, but what you're doing is reaching really deep parts within yourself, and while doing the work. And sometimes too, I get really tired of doing the work. Like
Hmm.
I just get tired of it. Sometimes it's just, you know what, screw it. I'm tired of doing this work. And that's
That's right.
okay. It's okay. You don't always have to be on, you don't always have to be doing the work. It's part work, it's part integration, it's part experience, just living. We can't
That's
put so
right.
much pressure on ourselves all the time. We're here to actually experience, and the good and the good and the, let's say, the light and the dark, not good and bad. It's not really necessarily the truth, but the light and the dark aspects of ourselves are one.
That's right.
But also, not to discourage people listening and watching, that it does get better when you are consciously aware of what is happening and using these moments as opportunity for change. And so when people are not changing, when they're not looking in, when they're not observing self, when they're ignoring it, suppressing it, leaving it alone, and continuing on in the same pattern, same path, nothing will change. nothing will change. So
That's
yeah.
right. Well, be the change, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. And one thing we spoke about just before we started recording was, you have to be what you want to attract. And that has been my biggest learning is I've done all the manifestation work. I mean, years of just putting this into practice. And I finally understand what that means is I have to reflect what it is that I want. And I'm really understanding that. Like, there's a lot of times it's easy for us to judge people outside of ourselves. I think true shadow work is that accountability.
Yeah.
When I'm conflicted with somebody that I'm seeing, I have to be real about how I am contributing to the circumstance, because ultimately that person is just a reflection of me, right? They're just there to teach me. And if I get stuck in, it's their fault, I'm not to blame, da 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 da, how is that negativity going to turn into something positive? I'm never going to grow from that. And again, well, you can fool me, right? You can fool somebody all you want, but really, like, ultimately, you can see where you're wrong. And so it's almost like that guilt festers, right? And that's where sickness and illness can come, and where you can attract worse circumstances. Like, if you don't deal with this person, there might be another person that might come with more baggage that you have to deal with, because you're refusing to see the main issue of growth. Like, they're not there to, it's like seeing everybody. It's that, I guess, the oneness of everything. Like, we're all just one, right? And everything that is coming into your reality is something that's in your mind. There's a thought, there's a feeling, there's a trauma that is bringing these circumstances into your life. And if you are not real about it, like, it's just going to keep repeating. And one thing that's happened to me is the universe has said, okay, you know what? You refuse to change. I'm going to make, and I've been in several accidents, like we'd mentioned in the last one, because I was refusing to change. I was refusing to look at what needed to change. And so the universe brought it to me. And now I'm like, okay, no, I'm done with that. I'm ready to be the change so that I can reflect back what I want, not all that trauma stuff that I refuse to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the aspect of the outer versus inner aspect of our being, knowing that you're right. Yeah, we all are connected. We're all part of this experience, this flow of energy, and we're moving in and out of people's lives. They're moving in and out and flowing and poking at us, and we're poking at them. And so it's really, yeah, it's important not to look at the outer world as the issue, because that we it's all in here, it really
That's
is. It's
right.
all in here, and how we interpret the outer world. And so the interpretation process comes in here, and then we form this story about how bad it is, and I'm stuck, and I hate my life, and this person sucks, and I'm never
Yes.
going to find a good partner, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever else starts to come to the surface, that's coming from somewhere deeper, and that's coming from a deeper false belief within self that we're in the process right now on the greater timeline of shifting out of. And I was speaking with a friend today also about something similar. It's this transition that we're in from, and on the greater timeline, from our old paradigm of being in a very, very locked in unconscious state. And if you can imagine your grandparents, for example, not having these conversations, not being
Right.
able to look within, not even being able to ask these questions within self, and so it's really getting out of the weeds of
Mm-hmm.
our feelings and go, okay, you know what, there's a bigger story happening here in our collective, in the world, with our timeline, and we're all shifting, not all, but a lot, and we have this amazing ability right now to live like we've never lived before. And that is, and yes, the feelings are real. That it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, it hurts, it's pain, but this is the pain, this is generational pain. This is pain that our grandparents lived with unconsciously. They lived and died with this within them without even processing it, understanding it, feeling it. It just was, they were part of that belief, the trauma, the unconscious behaviors without even having a clue, without even realizing. And now we're moving into this place where like, oh, we're seeing it. We're starting to see and separate and understand and shift and create, like move into something that is pretty amazing.
That's right.
It's tough. It isn't easy, but again, it's also beautiful in the same sense when you look at it from that perspective, right?
Absolutely. Well, you're going from where they used to, life happened to them, right?
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
they would see it, everything, all the events are out of my control. And we're realizing now through quantum physics and science that we are the creators of our reality. So we're
Hmm.
now taking our power back. But that's the uncomfortable part for
Yeah.
us now. This is where we are at as a generation of people navigating between the old and the new,
Mhm.
and we're bringing that change in because we're understanding how to work with this new power. But it can be scary too. I mean, I have fasted a couple of times in my life, and it was a little bit scary because it was one of those moments where everything stood still in the movies, where everything just goes in slow motion, and I just said something and it happened, like, whoa. And that was a little frightening in itself because I was like, whoa, okay, hang on. That's some power right there. Now, how do I tap into that all the time without being scared of it? Right. Because with that power comes great responsibility. Right now, it's not happening to me. I'm creating it. Whoa. Okay. Now I have to watch my thoughts. I have to watch my being. And that's where that shadow work comes in. Right.
Yeah.
Because now you have to look at everything. But I'm coming to a point, and I think we touched a little bit on it the last time, where I'm seeing these events. I'm not labeling them anymore. It's not good and bad. It's just a
Yeah.
scenario that I am facing. And the minute I label it, I'm going to attract one way or another. But if I just go and be neutral about it and see where the learning is, like, what do I need to look at? Right? Like, am I being accountable for my part in this? So say, like, I'm going to use an example of a situation that I've dealt with several times because I'm at a point where drawing boundaries is just uh, it's something I have to do. It's for my own peace, it's for my own growth, and I work on myself all the time. And so I don't need anybody's energy in my life who doesn't want to match that. Like, if you don't want to work on yourself and if you don't want to be accountable for your part, there's no place for this relationship for me. But I'm also very aware that I'm attracting this for a reason. I need to look at this person and how they're treating me and see where in my life or maybe in my childhood somebody has treated me this way. There's hurt feelings about something, and I've attracted this person for that reason. And if I can really look at that and be real about it, like truly just say, okay, you know what? They are hurting my feelings. And this is where that grudge is. It's not because I feel like they're not accepting me. I don't feel whole. I don't feel loved. But it's not their job to make me feel that way. It's my job to love myself, and when I can fully love myself, then it doesn't matter if somebody comes and calls me crazy because that's their judgment. But if I feel like I'm a crazy person, then of course I'm going to take what they say to offense. So that's the part is like, we really have to be authentic. That is like the best thing I can say out of all of this is just be real with yourself and look at what you need to heal, because that's going to be the growth, right? That's going to be where we are going to be the change and attract what we want versus again falling into that cycle of getting what we don't want, I guess.
Yeah, getting or not getting what we want and getting upset about it and
That's right.
not seeing the bigger picture of our, which I mean, I find myself up against that right now, actually, where it's these moments of stuckness and frustration and not being where I want to be. And um I've been feeling that for a long time. And so it's interesting. And back to your comment about learning to create, stepping into this new experience and manifesting and self-manifesting. There is an aspect, a very powerful aspect within our subconscious that prevents us from doing that if we haven't experienced that before, or if we've had in our formative years limitations placed on us, our ability to fully be empowered and express ourselves fully and live to our absolute full potential. If we haven't felt that, if we haven't been able to do that, then we have those limitations within our subconscious that prevent us from fully accepting it or receiving it or living in it or creating more. And I've lived in that many. I mean, I remember when I was a competitive cyclist, and I was really, really passionate, and I had really good skill. I knew I could do really well. And I've been in this a couple times where I've started something and I've known right away, I'm like, I am going to go right to the top with this. I know it. I know I can do it. I'm meant to do this. And and then I get like I had moments of success, and I did quite well, but there would always be like at the time when I really wanted, like when I really wanted to perform, or I had something that I really was aiming for, I would just come just short from it. And I always felt there was something in the pit of my stomach that just kind of just like it was maybe a feeling of non-deservingness, or maybe I'm not good enough. I was so competitive and so in my ego. And yeah, it was these dualities of ego versus passion. Like this passion that I had inside of this, like, I love this. I want to do my best at it. This is what I'm meant to do. And then the ego coming in and taking it over completely, and rushing in and being competitive and judging other people, and like, just this like really harsh energy to it. And when we start to move into that ability to self-manifest, it is a completely different experience. It's void of ego. If we come in and we manifest because we want to prove a point, or we want to get back at someone, or we want to prove that we're successful, we're smart, we're capable, have people respect us, it's not going to work. It's not
You
going to
got it,
work.
sister. That's it. I could
The
not have
universe
said
is
it better
going to
myself.
like go, okay, we'll give
Honestly,
it to you, and then you're going to learn a big lesson
that's
through
right.
that. Yeah. Yeah, I've
It's
had that.
almost like this non-attachment has to exist. Like
Mhm.
I really have noticed that every time I don't care, we hear that it's like when you stop caring, when you stop focusing on it, and
Mhm.
then it
Yeah.
poof, it comes up. You always hear like, oh, I've wanted to meet somebody for so long, and just when I stopped looking,
Mhm.
it's that, like, it's
Well, it's where
because
the
of the
energy
where you're
goes,
at.
where the energy goes, the energy flows. So if you're
That's
putting so much
right.
pressure on something, then you're restricting the ability for flow, for it to create it. So
That's
you're
right.
almost like, it's almost counterintuitive to what we're used to in this old paradigm of creating. It's like by force, it's expectations, it's pushing, it's needing, it's wanting, it's frustration. It's like this really intense energy that we put towards what we want as far as a success for ourselves. And it is counterintuitive. It's counter to what we're used to. And so it's moving into this whole new experience of like, oh, that's how it's done, and that's how it feels. And so it's this massive discovery process that happens along with it. So if anyone out there is going through this process, you're definitely on track. And we can question ourselves, we can doubt ourselves, we can get frustrated, we can want to give up, but as long as you're still trying, pick yourself back up, get back on the horse,
Yeah,
go, put yourself in the direction that you want. Try a little bit. As long as you are developing the awareness and working towards something better, you cannot lose.
that's
That's it.
right.
Bottom line.
That's right. Do good, be good, think good, honestly. And I feel like if you can just be in the good and always come from that place of good intention, it's a matter of time before those things come into your life. And when you said that, like, it's kind of like, when I first started out, I wanted to be a speaker. I knew that I had lots to say, and I wanted to be out there, and I wanted to be in front of people and really tell my story. And I started to do the real healing, and I realized, like, oh my god, like, I need to fix me. Like I got to stop worrying about healing others when I still got my own stuff that I've got to work through. And I directed all that energy back into myself, and that's when I realized like I don't actually care. Like it's all me. It's all me being in my process, and whatever comes of it will come. But like I realized that if I'm going to force it, it's like it was like that. Oh, I want it for to prove myself. I want to show my family who I am and my worth. And like you said, it was more about proving than authentic. Like it wasn't authentic. It wasn't about me being a speaker because I've experienced all these things and I have so much to say. It was like, well, yeah, I've got a lot to say and I just want people to see that I have a lot to say. I want to be heard. Because really, when I reflected, I realized as a child, I was born into a family of all adults. Like my brother and sister were 18 and 14 years older than me. So, I was the little one in the entire family. And when all these big adult problems were going on, right, I was not being seen and heard. And that's where I realized, oh, that's where that comes from. Okay,
Mm.
I got to heal that because I am worth something. I do have value. I do have things of value to say. And maybe it's not for everyone, but when the time comes, I will say it and the right people will be there to hear it. And it's no longer a force. I'm not pushing to get somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, the not being seen or heard is a big one. And that I feel that is a very powerful underlying cause for the ego to prove oneself, being seen or being heard. I actually saw a really quick, it's on TikTok, psychology tidbits or something, little facts. And there was one line in there that said, those who speak the loudest are those who weren't heard in their family, and they feel like they have
Mhm.
to speak up to be heard. So
That's
they're
right.
loud. And so it's so fascinating how these behaviors become so ingrained, from such a young age. And so, yeah, it's this dismantling of our old and seeing these patterns within, and really the ego play is quite big. So, but, your ability to tell your story is, it's now you're approaching it from the right place, right? Now
That's
you're
right.
in that place. And this is similar to myself, more on the emotional side. I definitely was a victim for a long time. Like I was really hard about my story and life and hard on myself. And it was just like the suffer and struggling. And since I've worked out of most of it, I mean, I'm still like, it still comes up every now and then, but definitely has been really interesting to, and same as you, I've wanted to talk about it and help others and share the story. But I was in a very emotional place for a long time, like very emotionally connected with that story still. And so these moments, if you have a vision of something and if you have a thought of where you want to go with yourself, your life, what you want to create, it all happens in perfect timing. And we do need to remember that, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But when you look back, even I'm going through this right now, I'm looking back going, oh, okay, no, I see all the change that I had to go through in order to, keep elevating my offering, what I'm working on, who I am. And it's all lining up, it's all adding up. So, yeah, it all happens naturally. It's a natural progression, but we can't see when we're in it. We can't really see we can't understand or make sense of what exactly is in fact happening because we're
That's
in
right.
the details of it. We're in here too much. So it's nice to look back a year, how far you've come, what's changed, what you've gone through, and then you see the bigger picture. You understand
That's
it a
right.
bit more.
That's right. I mean, I know what would have killed me, 10 years ago is like one day now, right? It's just these things that we navigate through are meant to make us stronger. And I hate
Mhm.
that. I absolutely hate that. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger because it's like I got it. Being somebody who's constantly going through these things has been like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm done,
Mhm.
I'm learning,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Can I just get some peace here? But really it is. It's like you can't level up if you don't go through that stuff. And there's always, like you said, looking back, it always makes sense. It's always like, oh, okay, I get it. But we got to give ourselves that time. Give it a
Mhm.
year,
Yeah.
see where you are in a year from now.
And a
But
year isn't that long. A year goes by really
it
fast. It
does.
does.
It totally does. And it's,
Mhm.
don't get so caught in achieving all the time. That's, I think we're always stuck in, I need to achieve this, I need to get there. Success is this and this and this. And I thought so too. And it's funny because I achieved all the things that I thought a successful person is, and they brought me no joy. Like it was like, oh, okay, well, I'm here. Now what? Right? It's now I realize it's like, okay, the journey was the important part here. It wasn't that achieving part, it was the process. And now I know I can achieve more, I can achieve better, I can get what I really desire into my life because I've learned the steps.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we can wrap it up here. Thank you again. If there's anything else you'd like to add along with this topic of cause and effect, any advice, any pearls of
Well,
wisdom.
I think I've said plenty, but thank you for having me on your platform, and
You're
it's
most
always an
welcome.
absolute pleasure to discuss these things with you because it's just I feel like I'm talking to my best friend, about all these things we're all navigating, and
Yeah,
it's rare to find people that you can connect with. So
yeah.
find your tribe, people. That's the
Hmm.
important part. Is
Yeah.
that's the best thing you can do.
And with that, I will add, because I have caught some comments and just discussing with other people, your people will show up when you start to change, when you start turning into your cause and not the effect, when you start
That's right.
to really know, and not from the ego, not from resentment of the people you want to be with, naturally fitting into that. And well, it's really aligning with who you are and what you value and feeling that, not being resentful of situations that have happened in the past. Oh, I can't trust anyone, and all people are bad, or maybe just feeling lonely or isolated, or maybe in loss of not finding your people. And I've been blessed. I've really, meeting yourself and just finding flow with really good quality solid people and relationships, and
Mhm.
that for me was one of my biggest Achilles heels. I have a
Yes.
tremendously um toxic track record of really bad relationships showing up in my life. I'm sure you have as well, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to regain trust. It's that's a process on its own of and then allowing that to come into your life, trusting it and opening yourself to allow it to come in, and giving it, and also not putting the pressure on it, the process of wanting to find, and I know people are experiencing this right now, and I know it's a lot of people are going through that, because that also is part of shifting out of our old friend groups or
That's right.
associates and whatnot, and moving into something different. But it does happen. It does, and it's great. It's
That's
so great. It
right.
just feels natural,
That's right.
Yeah.
Remember, you'll keep reflecting back to yourself who you continue to like change into. So,
Hmm.
just keep evolving and changing. And then eventually, right, you're going to reflect the authentic self that you desire to see.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you and I are on the same path. It's really cool. I love having our conversations, because it is I feel that we're experiencing very similar things. We're feeling very similar things. We were going to do this. We're going to have this talk. I think it was 2 weeks ago during the full moon in
Yes.
Aquarius. And I don't know if I contacted you or you contacted me.
I
I don't
think
know.
we
One of
both were just like,
We're like, I can't do this. It's
uh-huh.
too much. I'm not in the right place to have
That's
a
right.
conversation right now. I was imploding.
Yeah.
And then the next week, oh yeah, it was a technical thing. I don't know, but yeah. So it's interesting that we're anyway, kind of
Yeah, we seem to
feel.
be on the same wavelength. So it's
Yeah.
it's good. As so
Yeah.
I bet you collectively we're all very much feeling it.
For those watching, listening, cause and effect, the law of cause and effect is always in motion. Be the cause, not the effect. Not coming at it from ego, from wounds, coming from it from your true authentic self. You'll win, and trust the process. There you go. Pearls of wisdom
That's
right
it.
there. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, love. It was so great to see you again.
So
And I'll
great to
leave
see
your
you.
information below. If anybody wants to get a hold of Nazly, I'll leave it below for you for contact information. And I'm sure you will be seeing us again very soon.
Thank
Take
you.
care.